Monsieur le Chairman de l'American Battle Monuments Commission, le général d'armée à la retraite, Michael Hegseth, vous présentera son message de bienvenue. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman of the American Battle Monuments Commission, retired General Michael Hegseth will now deliver his opening remarks. Well, good morning, everyone. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Battle Monuments Commission, it is my privilege to welcome you to the Normandy American Cemetery as we commemorate the 82nd anniversary of the D-Day landings. Most especially, I want to recognize the World War II veterans with us today. Thank you for making a long journey to be here. When you first come to the hallowed grounds of Normandy American Cemetery, it's only natural to be drawn immediately to the headstones. It's quite a sight around this corner to be met with seemingly endless rows of crosses and stars of David, overlooking the very beach where so many lost their lives. It offers perspective that can only truly be gained by standing before it. You stand on ground made sacred not only by sacrifices made along these beaches in 1944, but by conviction, by the belief that something larger than fear or uncertainty was worth answering the call. At the founding of our nation, a different generation of Americans made that same choice. In 1776, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, their honor to an idea that had never been fully realized in the world before. That liberty could be both fragile and worth defending at all costs. That same thread of conviction runs through the generations represented here. It did not begin on these beaches, and it certainly did not end here. As a tribute to those memorialized at this cemetery, behind me you'll see the bronze sculpture entitled "The Spirit of American Youth, Rising from the Waves." This statue reminds us that what rose here along these beaches 82 years ago was more than simply. It was the enduring spirit of the nation. These men did not face the enemy without fear, but within them burned the American spirit to fight for their lives, to fight for their brothers, to fight for their country, and to fight for liberty. That spirit came from all corners of our United States, crossing the Atlantic to an uncertain fate. It rose through fear, through chaos, through bloodshed, and it came ashore with these men, indomitable, steadfast, unyielding. Inspired by their spirit, I look to the words etched beneath the statue. To these we owe the high resolve that the cause for which they died shall live. Our duty is not to just preserve this place, the marble headstones, the green grass, the bronze sculptures. We must preserve its meaning. And to do that is to realize that these graves do not call upon us to be looked upon in admiration. They call us to remember who these men and women were in life and to reflect on why their sacrifices still matter in a world that looks very different today. Each generation has faced moments where the defense of liberty required difficult and consequential decisions. Here at Normandy, that truth stands plainly before us. And across our history, that same cost has been borne again and again by Americans who rose up and stepped forward when called. And so 82 years removed from that morning, as you walk amongst these graves, as you read the names of those still missing, resolve to carry them with you. Their names, their fighting spirit, their memory. That is how we remember their sacrifice and honor it faithfully and ensure that the freedoms secured here are never taken for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Garrett. Mesdames, Messieurs, veuillez vous lever pour l'invocation prononcée par le colonel Brian Coyne. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation will be delivered by Colonel Brian Coyne, United States Army Chaplain Corps, U.S. Army, Europe, and Africa.
I invite you to join me in prayer. Almighty God, on this sacred morning, as the salt air drifts in from the coast and the flags flutter in front of rows of crosses and stars, we gather in reverence and gratitude. Here where the fields still echo with the footsteps of heroes, help us remember those who stormed these shores, who braved the roar of guns and the shadow of uncertainty so that freedom might prevail. We thank you for the giants whose courage shaped history, whose sacrifice laid the foundation for the liberty we cherish, and for those who gave the last full measure of devotion, giving their lives for their friends and the Republic. Their names are etched in marble in memory, their stories woven into the very earth beneath our feet. As we stand among these silent sentinels, help us to honor their legacy, not only with solemn words, but with lives that reflect their valor and resolve. May our ceremony today be a tribute worthy of their sacrifice. Grant us the grace to remember deeply, to honor truly, and to stand tall on the shoulders of those who came before us. We pray in your matchless name. Amen.
Please be seated. J'ai l'honneur de présenter les autorités qui vont prendre la parole aujourd'hui. Pour commencer, Mr. Arthur Rose, ancien combattant de la Seconde Guerre mondiale. I have the honor of presenting the officials who will deliver the D-Day addresses. First, World War II veteran, Mr. Arthur Rose.
This is 107-year-old Arthur Rose. As a young lieutenant in the United States Navy, he wrote a letter home just days after the invasion. Arthur's going to read that letter right now.
June 11th, 1944. Dear Mom and Dad and kids, after about a month after we landed, I had a feeling I might be part of the invasion. I couldn't quite believe, though, I kept thinking that what could I possibly do in an invasion, pull engines in the middle of a battle, change injectors, or
Hot beachhead.
or
I figured men like me.
and we could come along afterwards. Oh, after the smoke, the wreckage, and the damage had passed, but 2 weeks before D-Day, I was told I would go along and do whatever I could. We had moved to the assault port, thousands of ships, landing craft of every description filled the harbor, and everyone worked day and night preparing for for fuel, provisions, ammunition, secret material, everything checked and rechecked and checked again. You can't imagine the confusion and activity. Then came the day we began loading supplies for the invasion.
Food, blankets.
Food, blankets, ammunition needed. Supplies and all the countless things that would be need once the men landed in France. We knew then the invasion could not be far. Then came the word. D-Day will be June now. I probably can't describe the feeling exactly. It wasn't fear, and it wasn't excitement, just a funny feeling that in the stomach, nervousness, what's that word?
Expectancy.
Expectancy, and wondering what was going to happen next. Then we sailed. The sea was rough, windy, and miserable. I was seasick most of the time. Everyone expected bombing, submarines, battleships, and all hell to break loose at any moment. But the first attempt was called off. Oh, I remember that. The
sea was too rough.
Because the sea was too rough, and we returned to the harbor. That was a real. I didn't hear it.
Real letdown.
A real letdown. Okay, next. The next day we sailed again at the nearest
As we neared the coast of France,
near the coast of France, we could see flashes in the distance and hear explosions continuously. Each hour had come. In went the landing craft. We expected terrible destruction. There was shelling, yes, and men died, but not the Holocaust we had imagined. At times what?
it was strangely quiet.
At times it was strangely quiet, and showed.
And slowly
The beach became ours. Then
our work
truly began.
Back and forth,
day and night, and bringing more men, more supplies, more equipment. Food, medical supplies, ammunition. When what they had once been just another stretch of French coast had suddenly become a vast harbor filled with hundreds of ships and thousands of men. I don't remember writing this.
This is the best part.
What a country we are. I will always be grateful to my commander for taking me along. Don't worry about me. I am well and whole and happy. Love art.
107-year-old Arthur Rose, United States Navy, D-Day veteran, French Legion of Honor recipient.
Congratulations, as the French minister, I am the French minister of Army, and I just want to thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My
so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you
so
for
much.
telling me.
Thank you so much.
Sit down.
Yeah, we're going to go to the wheelchair. Great job, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur Rose. J'invite le général d'armée Dan Raisin Kane, chef d'état-major des armées des États-Unis d'Amérique, à prendre la parole. General Dan Raisin Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will now deliver his remarks.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Mr. Secretary, members of Congress, ambassadors, leaders, general officers, but most importantly, our 29 World War II veterans in the crowd today. Let's give them all a round of applause. And Mr. Rose, sir, your letter was awesome. I will let you know, sir, that we still check things, check them again, based on the example that you gave us. And never in my life have I been so humbled, honored, or nervous to follow somebody than I am following you, sir, and talking. So thank you. Commanding a fleet of 36 vessels, you made sure the men on the beach had what they needed, that could move forward, advance, and close with the savage enemy, and the landing force would have failed without you and your brothers in those craft. Sir, on behalf of 2.8 million men and women in our joint force, thank you for the perfect gift of a great example to you and to your teammates here today. Another round of applause for our veterans. "82 years ago, on a morning much like today, and I bet the weather was a lot like today, the fate of the world was decided on the beach just off to our right. As we stand here overlooking Omaha Beach, and off in the distance, we see 9,387 of our fallen brothers and sisters, and 1,557 names on the walls of the missing. I'm deeply humbled by the immense weight of their sacrifice. You can feel them here. The men and women buried here and their brothers and sisters are so fortunate to have given us the gift that we have today. They were ordinary people from all over the United States of America who answered the call to serve, and through their great example showed us what extraordinary looks like. They crossed an ocean to fight for their country on a continent that they'd never seen, to save a people they did not know. They were young men of purpose, resolve, and action. And that is what we remember today. Absolute, unwavering selflessness. A beautiful, perfect example for those of us still today in the service of our country, the gift of that example. The soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guard men of the Allied forces risked everything, and thousands gave us the ultimate sacrifice. They gave their lives for strangers. They did this because they were good and were committed to ridding the world of evil. Today we remember the crew of the USS Corey that delivered covering fire for the landings on Utah Beach. She provided fire support 1,000 yards from the beach, and after several hits from German guns and striking a mine, she sank in the cold, choppy water. Just imagine for a minute 1,000 yards off the beach, what it looked like here on this hallowed ground, what it sounded like, the smell, the taste, the chaos. 24 of her crew were killed that day, including Chief Machinist Mate Bernard John Peterson from Nebraska, Seaman First Class Robert Thompson from Texas, and Gunner's Mate Second Class Paul Stombaugh from Pennsylvania. They died to protect the soldiers on the beach,
men they never knew. Today we remember the pilots that gave their lives to protect the ground force. Men like First Lieutenant Harold Lacey Ross Jr., a P-51 Mustang fighter pilot who was flying deep in northern France, attacking German forces on the ground that were headed to the beach. As he finished a strafing run and came off target, 15 German fighters attacked him. He fought for his life. He was shot down and killed, and he lies among his soldier brothers he died to protect here today. Men he never knew. Today we remember the Coast Guard men of LCI 94 that delivered soldiers to the beach over and over and over again. As the landing craft came to the beach, they were immediately engaged by artillery and machine gun fire. They disembarked their troops, and rather than head to safety further out, they saw a Higgins boat in distress, and they moved towards that. As they moved towards that target, artillery rounds struck the pilot house, and 3 Coast Guardsmen, August Bunchek, Fletcher Burton, and Jack Denuzio, were instantly killed, trying to save men they never knew. Just for a minute, imagine that landing craft coming ashore, and then the ramp drops, and you're a soldier on that landing craft. Men like First Lieutenant Jimmy Monteith Jr. of the 1st Infantry Division. Jimmy landed right here on Omaha Beach under heavy fire. Refusing to take cover, he moved continuously back and forth up and down the beach, rallying his scattered and pinned down soldiers. With complete disregard for his own safety, he rallied his forces and led an assault off the beach, across an exposed flat, and up the cliffs just off our right side. When Allied tanks arrived, Jimmy crossed an open field on foot, walking directly through an active minefield under constant machine gun fire to guide those Allied tanks towards enemy pillboxes. He continued to lead the defense of this hard-won position against overwhelming odds until ultimately he made the ultimate sacrifice. For his actions, Jimmy was awarded the Medal of Honor. He sacrificed himself for a continent he'd never seen to save a people he did not know. 82 years have passed since the Allied Armada appeared over the horizon on this very morning. Today, the guns are silent. The sand is swept clean by the tides of history. But the memory of what happened here that day and the days that followed will never wash away. We feel it every day within America's joint force. The veterans of World War II who are here with us today and those who did not come home, thank you. Thank you for your courage, tenacity, and grit that you showed the world on that day and the days that followed. Most of all, thank you for your selflessness, for loving our country, and again, for the gift of the perfect example. May God always bless the souls resting in this cemetery. May God bless the United States of America, and may God bless our joint force. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General King. J'invite l'Honorable Charles Kushner, ambassadeur des États-Unis d'Amérique auprès de la République française et de la Principauté de Monaco, à prendre la parole. The Honorable Charles Kushner, ambassador of the United States to the French Republic and the Principality of Monaco, will now deliver his remarks.
Mr. Secretary, honored veterans, and distinguished guests, we gather today on the shores of Normandy to remember one of the most consequential days in human history, the Allied landings on June 6, 1944, known to the world as D-Day. On that morning, the horizon filled with thousands of ships and aircraft. Young men, many barely out of school, crossed the English Channel into a storm of steel and fire. They stepped from their landing craft into cold water and chaos, carrying with them not just rifles and packs, but also the hopes of a world longing to be free. Those beaches, whose names are forever etched into history, Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, Gold Beach, Juno Beach, and Sword Beach, became the proving ground of courage. For the United States, the cost was staggering. At Omaha Beach alone, American forces faced devastating fire as they struggled to climb the bluffs. Yet they did not turn back. They advanced, yard by yard, cliff by cliff, because they understood that freedom itself hung in the balance. These soldiers came from farms and factories, from big cities and small towns across the United States. They were teachers, mechanics, students, sons and brothers. Many would never return home. More than 2,500 Americans were killed on that first day. Thousands more were wounded. Today, they rest in solemn rows at this cemetery, overlooking the very beaches where they fought. Each white cross and Star of David marks a life cut short, but never forgotten. Each represents a story of courage, of sacrifice, and of devotion to a cause greater than oneself. But D-Day was never the story of one nation alone. It was the story of an alliance, of nations standing shoulder to shoulder in defense of liberty. American soldiers fought alongside the forces of France, the United Kingdom, Canada, and others. Together, they opened the road to the liberation of Europe. Together, they proved that tyranny could be defeated when free people stand united. We are especially mindful that the people of Normandy were not merely witnesses to this history. They were participants in it. French civilians endured occupation, risked their lives in resistance, and welcomed Allied troops as liberators. The bond forged here between the United States and France is not simply diplomatic. It is written in sacrifice and sealed in friendship. The men who stormed these beaches did not fight for conquest. They fought for principles, freedom, democracy, and human dignity. They believed that those ideals were worth defending, even at the cost of their own lives. Our responsibility, generations later, is to prove them right. We honor them not only with ceremonies and monuments, but with our commitment to preserve the freedom that they fought to secure. We honor them by standing together as allies and friends to defend liberty. And we honor them by remembering the courage of young Americans who crossed the ocean to defend a continent they had never seen. Remembering the partnership between our nations that changed the course of history. And remembering that on these very beaches, ordinary men performed extraordinary deeds that helped save the world. May we never forget what was achieved here. May we always remain worthy of their sacrifice. And may the spirit of those who fought on the beaches of Normandy continue to inspire our nations and the world to defend freedom whenever and wherever it is threatened. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Kushner. J'invite Madame Catherine Vautrin, ministre des Armées de la République française, à prendre la parole. Madame Catherine Vautrin, Minister of the Armed Forces of the French Republic, will now deliver her remarks.
Monsieur le secrétaire à la guerre, mesdames et messieurs les ambassadeurs et représentants des nations alliées, mesdames et messieurs les élus, mesdames et messieurs les autorités militaires, mesdames et messieurs les combattants du débarquement, chers vétérans, mes premiers mots seront pour vous remercier de votre engagement, pour vous remercier de votre présence, pour vous remercier de ce que vous représentez. Car ici, dans le silence de ces stèles blanches, au-dessus d'Omaha la sanglante, la liberté a repris pied sur le continent européen. Il y a 82 ans, 156 000 soldats alliés franchissaient la Manche ou sautaient dans la nuit normande. Ils étaient américains, britanniques, canadiens, belges, luxembourgeois, néerlandais, norvégiens, danois, polonais, tchécoslovaques, australiens, néo-zélandais, sud-africains, français. Ils ne portaient pas le même uniforme, ne parlaient pas la même langue, n'avaient pas le même drapeau, mais ils avaient en partage cette conviction plus forte que la peur. Il existe des moments où la liberté d'un peuple engage l'honneur de tous les autres. Plus de 10 000 hommes furent tués, blessés ou portés disparus en une seule journée. Et dans toute la bataille de Normandie, plus de 20 000 Américains ont péri ici, 20 838 exactement. Car je ne veux en oublier aucun, cher Pete Hegseth. Toute la force de Colleville tient dans cette vérité bouleversante, au nom de la liberté des hommes venus d'un autre continent, repose pour toujours sur une terre qui n'était pas la leur. Ce fragment d'Amérique, notre pays le garde précieusement. Il nous rappelle ce que la liberté coûte lorsqu'elle doit être reconquise. À ces hommes, la France garde une reconnaissance éternelle. Je veux, une fois encore, saluer les témoins parmi nous. Ces dernières années, plusieurs d'entre nous nous ont quittés. C'est pourquoi ces commémorations sont tellement essentielles. C'est pourquoi nos musées, nos cimetières, nos écoles, nos anciens combattants partagent une si grande mission. Faire vivre ce que les voix, bientôt, ne pourront plus dire seules. Transmettre inlassablement non seulement les faits, les dates et les noms, mais le sens de ce qui s'est joué ici. Souvenons-nous à cet instant de Léon Gauthier, dernier survivant du commando Kiefer, disparu en 2023. Il rappelait « Nous ne sommes pas des héros, nous n'avons fait que notre devoir ». Cette humilité est la plus haute des leçons. En cette année du 250e anniversaire de l'indépendance américaine, souvenons-nous du destin partagé de nos deux peuples, que l'histoire a appelé si souvent à se tenir côte à côte, shoulder to shoulder. Lafayette et Rochambeau pour l'indépendance américaine, les sémices de 1917 lorsque la liberté de la France fut menacée, les GIs d'Omaha pour la libération de la France et de l'Europe. Notre partenariat militaire se poursuit encore aujourd'hui. De Yorktown à la Normandie, de 1778 à 1944, jusqu'en 2026, nous demeurons fidèles aux valeurs du lien transatlantique. En ce 82e anniversaire du débarquement, si Colleville nous parle tant aujourd'hui, c'est aussi parce que la guerre est revenue sur notre continent. Nous avions voulu croire qu'elle était devenue impossible. L'Ukraine, nous rappelle qu'un peuple européen se bat pour sa survie. Le 6 juin 1944, quelques instants avant l'assaut, le général Eisenhower adressa aux soldats, aux marins et aux aviateurs alliés ces mots restés dans l'histoire. The eyes of the world are upon you. Aujourd'hui encore, les yeux du monde se tournent vers ceux qui se battent partout pour leur liberté et pour leurs valeurs. Aujourd'hui, à Colleville-sur-Mer, la France dit merci. Merci aux États-Unis d'Amérique. Merci aux alliés. Merci aux vétérans. Merci à ceux qui tombèrent pour que nous puissions vivre libres. We remember, we are grateful, and we stand together. Vive l'amitié franco-américaine, vive les États-Unis d'Amérique et vive la France.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. J'invite l'honorable Peter B. Hegseth, secrétaire d'État à la guerre des États-Unis d'Amérique, à prendre la parole. The Honorable Peter B. Hegseth, Secretary of War of the United States of America, will now deliver his remarks.
Well, Minister, Ambassador Kushner, Mr. Rose, Chairman Kane, distinguished guests, and most importantly, our veterans, thank you for being here to commemorate the 82nd anniversary, 82 years young, of D-Day. God bless you all. It is a profound privilege to be with you today on these hallowed grounds. This is not merely a resting place. It is a monument to the unyielding spirit of the American warrior, a testament to the supreme sacrifices our warriors made to liberate an entire continent from the grip of tyranny. We remain ever grateful to the French government, our ally for 250 years, for dedicating this land to our fallen. For every American who visits, it is uniquely stirring to see the Stars and Stripes proudly flying here in eternal vigil over the thousands of crosses and stars. As a former superintendent of this cemetery once said, looking over the graves, there they are, still serving their country. 82 years ago today, the survival of Western civilization hung in the balance. Dark forces had swept across Europe. Hitler boasted that his Atlantic Wall was impenetrable. But our enemy made a fatal miscalculation. They underestimated the unbreakable will of the American fighting man. The task was daunting. A frontal assault across the churning English Channel, directly into beaches and cliffs fortified with iron, concrete, and heavy artillery. An impossible mission? A suicidal mission? The mission of free men, freedom's only hope, no turning back. Alongside the brave forces of Great Britain, Canada, France, Norway, Poland, and our other capable and steadfast allies, the United States military spearheaded a great crusade to shatter the Nazi war machine and liberate a continent. Our troops carried with them the inspiring words of General Eisenhower, but more importantly, they carried the hopes and the prayers of a free world. They embarked into the dark, choppy waters, knowing that many would not return home. As the ambassador said, ordinary men, extraordinary courage. Like American patriots throughout our history, from Lexington to Gettysburg, they relied on one another, trusting their brothers and their cause. Before dawn, American paratroopers and gliders plunged into the abyss, lit only by enemy tracer fire. Chaotic drops and fierce resistance They adapted, they rallied, and they fought. A triumph of American ingenuity and initiative over the rigid, mechanized thinking of the enemy. We retain that advantage still today. Sergeant William Ashbrook of the 101st Airborne, the Screaming Eagles, looked out of his plane to the sight below, saying, "There were so many boats in the channel," he said, "that it seemed as if you could step out of the plane and walk to France on top of them." Speed and scale only the American war machine could produce, and we are producing again today. May we learn from this past. Later that Tuesday morning, the greatest amphibious assault in human history was unleashed. Our American warriors set out to take Omaha and Utah beaches. They rode in Higgins boats, a masterstroke of American engineering manufactured by the blue-collar grit of 20,000 workers in New Orleans. The ramps of those boats dropped, and our men hurled themselves into the waves and onto the blood-stained sand. The sheer courage that it took to charge into that hailstorm of machine gun fire and artillery, almost unfathomable. I tell my kids who join us today, and they can barely relate, it barely computes. Who could? Our forefathers did. What those men did here. We ask ourselves, could we? And may we always ask. The first waves of soldiers took devastating casualties, thousands of our absolute best cut down. But the American warfighter never quit. Fueled by an unwavering love of country and the men beside them, they pushed forward. They chose to face death rather than surrender or quit. And as they fought, inch by bloody inch, the Atlantic Wall crumbled. They were indeed the greatest generation. Farm boys from the heartland and city dwellers from the coasts, teachers and shopkeepers. The Americans buried here are our very best. Full stop. War reveals the true character of a nation and her men. The courage of the men who stormed these beaches is the courage that defines the United States of America. May it always, may we earn it and remember what they did here. The souls here earned it, and we are blessed to have a number of such warriors in our presence again today. They are a living embodiment of the warrior ethos we today revive at the Department of War. To the veterans here today who served in France and around the globe, gentlemen, we love you. We owe you a debt of gratitude we can never repay. A grateful nation honors your service and your historic bravery. June 6th, 1944, turned the tide of history. Extraordinary Americans, Allied courage, meticulous planning, the blood of our heroes, the Axis powers were doomed, the world saved. Without Operation Overlord, we would not have the free world we know today. Together with our allies, America saved Western civilization. This day, an annual reminder of the heavy cost of freedom, but also a reminder as we look out at those crosses of what it takes. And we ask ourselves, again, do we have it? Today, as we face an increasingly complex threat environment, we apply the lessons from 82 years ago learned on these beaches. Strong allies, each fully committed to doing their part, win wars. The men buried here fought in a warfighting alliance where every partner brought its full measure of industry, courage, and sacrifice. Not empty slogans, not lavish summits, not communiques. Real allies doing real things, taking real losses for a shared cause worth fighting and dying for. Each nation pulled its weight. Each nation bled. America will lead, and we must. But capable allies must be right there with us, shoulder to shoulder, in the breach, when it matters. In the years since these beaches, much of the West, in some places, in some quarters, and in some capitals, grew comfortable, we forgot that freedom is not free. We forgot that peace is not wished into being. It is bought with purpose, with honor, and with strength. The men who landed on these beaches knew this. The question we ask ourselves is, do we? It's past time we remember what they knew. Their legacy demands far more than quiet reflection. It requires our active vigilance. Sadly, today, different European beaches are stormed by different dangerous ideologies. Beaches in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, and Bulgaria. Boats and men arrive. When will European capitals do something about that invasion? Or is it too late? I pray not, and I believe not. The men who fought and died here restored freedom to Europe. That freedom must be maintained by this generation of leaders and warfighters, or what they fought for was merely temporary. As our great President Ronald Reagan once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You don't pass it to the next generation in the bloodstream. It must be defended by each and every generation. We stand by our allies, and we expect our allies capable and ready to stand alongside us. The heroes of 1944 did that, and may we. Peace is secured only through strength, and it's strength on both sides of the Atlantic, fortified by readiness, shared military capabilities, and an unwavering political will. Our world is safer and more prosperous when the United States of America and our allies are strong, free, and unapologetic in defense of our Western tradition of freedom. That is June 6th. That is 1944. That is D-Day. So let us here resolve the formidable alliance forged in the crucible of World War II will remain ready, will rebuild, and will recommit. And in doing that, we truly commemorate the men of D-Day. And we place them, all of them, in the hands of Almighty God. In fact, from my devotions just this very morning, Psalm 20, verse 7, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. May the Lord our God bless our warriors. May the Lord our God bless the enduring 250-year friendship between our two great republics. And may the Lord our God forever bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Nous allons maintenant procéder au dépôt des gerbes. Veuillez rester assis, mesdames, messieurs. Je demanderai aux personnes appelées de se présenter dès l'appel de leur nom. Les gerbes leur seront présentés par un membre du personnel du cimetière. We will now proceed with the laying of wreaths. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. For those laying wreaths, please come forward as your name is called. Your wreaths will be brought forward to you by a member of the cemetery staff. Secretary of War Peter B. Hegseth, representing the Department of War. Madame la ministre des Armées, Catherine Vautrin, représentant la République française. Ambassador Charles Kushner, representing the United States of America. À l'appel de votre nom, avancez en formant une ligne. Les gerbes vous seront présentées par un membre du personnel du cimetière. Vous serez ensuite invité à les déposer en même temps. As your name is called, please move forward to form a line. Your wreath will be brought forward to you by a member of our cemetery staff. You will then be instructed to move forward as a group to lay your wreath. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, Senator Tim Shea of Montana, representing the United States Senate. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, representing the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States. Le Général d'Armée aérienne Fabien Mandon, chef d'état-major des armées, représentant les armées de la République française. General Stephen S. Nordhaus, Chief of the National Guard Bureau, representing the United States National Guard. General Alexis Grinkovich, representing Supreme Allied Command Europe, United States European Command. Ambassador Matthew Whitaker, United States Ambassador to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Mr. Jarrett Eiserman, representing the National Aeronautic and Space Administration. Madame Patricia Gadi-Duquesne, représentante du département du Calvados. Monsieur Patrick Tomine, maire de Colleville-sur-Mer. L'American Battle Monuments Commission remercie vivement les représentants des communes et les organisations militaires et privées suivantes pour avoir déposé des gerbes, des fleurs en amont de cette cérémonie. General Christopher Norrie of the United States Army, Europe and Africa. Admiral George Wyckoff representing the United States Naval Forces, Europe and Africa. Best Defense Foundation, Delta Airlines, Michelin, Veterans AI, and Monsieur de la Valavier of Utah Beach, Saint-Marie Dumont. La dernière gerbe sera déposée au nom de l'American Battle Monuments Commission. The final wreath will be laid in the name of the American Battle Monuments Commission by the chairman, retired General Michael X. Garrett, and ABMC Commissioner David Bossie. Mesdames, Messieurs, veuillez vous lever pour le sonnerie aux morts, un moment de silence et taps. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the French sonnerie aux morts, a moment of silence and the playing of taps. plaît, restez-vous debout pour la bénédiction pour le Colonel Coyne et pour le départ des couleurs. Please remain standing for the benediction by Chaplain Coyne and the retirement of the colors.
I invite you to once again join me in prayer. Gracious God, as we depart from this hallowed ground, let the memory of the fallen remain vivid in our hearts. May the winds that sweep these cliffs and the waves that break upon these shores remind us daily of the price paid for freedom. Inspire us to live with honor, devotion, and gratitude, worthy of the legacy entrusted to us. Give us strength to walk in their footsteps, to carry forward their hope, and to stand as guardians of the liberty they secured. May we always remember, and may we always strive to be worthy of their sacrifice as we continue to serve you and each other. We pray in your mighty name. Amen.
Fire the colors. Mesdames, Messieurs, de la part de l'American Battle Monuments Commission et du Normandy American Cemetery, je vous présente nos plus sincères remerciements pour votre présence lors de cette cérémonie de commémoration du 82e anniversaire de Georgie. La cérémonie est à présent terminée. Je vous remercie de rester à vos places pendant que les autorités remercient les porte-drapeaux jusqu'à leur départ du mémorial. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Battle Monuments Commission and the Normandy American Cemetery, sincere thanks to everyone who attended today in commemoration of the 82nd anniversary of D-Day. That concludes today's ceremony. I ask you to please take your seats while the official party thanks the flag bearers and departs the memorial. Would you like to follow me?
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'on peut aller saluer